Hey everyone, and welcome to Handing the Shame Back, channel dedicated 100% to adult survivors, both male and female, here in New Zealand and across the world. It's an absolute pleasure to be doing this work, and it's so important. We have a wonderful panel discussion lined up today with incredible survivors and also a fabulous doctor. So just before I introduce everyone to you, I would just like to issue a trigger warning. As we know, as survivors, sometimes we can feel triggered, and I don't want anyone feeling unsafe. So please, if that happens, stop watching and go to the show notes below. We will be guided to some support and resource. So in the meantime, you lucky audience, we have Dr. Keli Palfy, who's from Canada. She's an ex-policewoman, actually, who was partly responsible for setting up the Child Sexual Abuse Exploitation Unit, and became fully aware and saddened by what she saw. And it was at that point that Keli recognised that men too, or boys to get abused, and something needed to be done. She then went on to do quite a lot of research and study in this, did a dissertation on it, and then in 2020, you will see behind her, she wrote a book called Men Too. So I think well done, Keli. Now I'd love to introduce our male survivors, and I'm so proud of you guys, because I realise it's such a challenge and so hard. So I'm very honoured to have you with us today. So we have March who joining us. Oh, he's taken his glasses off. Thanks for waving. We also have Matt, who's sitting there with Leo the dog, and we've all met Leo before. And we have John, and these guys are part of Male Survivors Aotearoa, but I think we're looking at the Canterbury group mainly. And the gift of having you guys in the room is, hey, you know what this is like. You've all been through it. So we're really just humbled again to have you here. So I guess as we start today, there's several things we can talk about, team, but I guess one of the ones, and Matt emailed to me today, is that 1 in 6 boys will be abused in this country by the time they are 16 years old. So we have many male survivors, and I guess I just wondered, John, do you have any thoughts about that? What's your thinking?
Well, of course, for so many years, I thought I was the only male this had ever happened to. So I was completely astounded when I started finding out that there were many more of us. It was the most difficult thing for me to talk about. So it took me one day, short of 50 years, to speak about it for the first time. And I spoke to my wife, Sharon, about it. And since then, I seem to be hearing more and more and more about it.
Yeah. Which is fantastic, John. Isn't it?
Yes, and it's equal for us all, male or female. It's not okay for it to happen to any human being. And we so appreciate you doing your program here and bringing this subject out for other people to hear and know that it really does exist, even for us men. Yeah.
Yeah. Kia ora. Matt, does Leo have anything to add?
Just that the barriers are slowly breaking down over time, thank goodness. But that's because of advocates such as yourself and people like Ken Clearwater and so on. I bet, you know, people from overseas that wrote the first books on male victims, and I think it's called Breaking the Silence or something, you know. So something about silence, you know, you've got to speak up. And it's such a taboo subject for so long. No one ever wanted to know about it, you know. You just get told to go away or toughen up or harden up, or, you know, the subject just wasn't discussed. And it was a sad thing. And it took a lot of powerful men, yeah, to lead the way.
Yeah.
Because it's still pretty ugly today, some of the conversations we have with people. It's not enough. So it can get pretty heated in that, because some people just don't give a shit, sorry for the language, but that's what they're like, and they couldn't care less about your feelings or empathy or anything like that. So it's a sad part of society, but that's the way it is. Yeah.
So, and that's a really interesting point you raise. Marchu, why do you think that is?
No understanding. No, people just need understanding, empathy. I mean, different services around town need to have people like us to go and talk to them so that they can understand the average guy coming in, that they have problems. And yeah, it's all about communication, eh? I think very much so. And then communication, and then respecting that other person. It means heaps to us, guys. Because, you know, it's easy for me to go off the rails when I've been spoken to in not a very nice fashion. So I'm either going to, in my old days, I would have lost the plot and walked out, you know what I mean? But today, with a bit of understanding, a bit of learning about myself, yeah. So here's a good place, actually, today.
Yeah. I think you learn to deal with what triggers you, and you try and understand why it does that to you, and you can get some liberation with figuring it all out, you know.
And to understand that the other person doesn't understand me so much, so I've got to watch what I say too. So I've got to be aware. Show some awareness, I think.
Yeah. So, Kelly, having listened to, aren't these guys fabulous? Don't you just love these guys and their courage and humility? Hey.
Absolutely, and I would just make a few comments about what all three of you said. I think, well, I don't know what the support system is like in New Zealand, but you know, like myself and a few other psychologists in Canada and the US are really trying to bring the male survivor voice to light, because, you know, we are aware that it's so prevalent. And I can say that, like, I mean, I wrote a book, Men Too, Unspoken Truths About Male Sexual Abuse, and like, my area of specialization anytime I advertise is that this is what I work on first. And I restrict my practice almost exclusively to either police officers, because I was one, or male survivors. And I can tell you, the more I talk about it, the more, like, even just clients that are coming to me for other reasons wind up admitting that they are too. Like, it's just, you know, I make a point of talking about it. I try to fit it in, like what I do in the book I wrote and stuff like this, because nobody talks about it. And I can tell you, like, at least 3/4 of the time when I tell someone, they either tear up, like I've hit a little close to home, or they end up disclosing that they're, you know, or you're also right, Matt, like sometimes they literally just don't understand. And I do think it's changing, but not fast enough. I think the big struggle is that so many people don't think it's possible. Like, and that is why I got involved with this, because it didn't even cross my mind that men were victims too. I mean, I was literally seeing it on videotape from images that we'd seized. And I don't mean to be rude, but we didn't understand what we were seeing, because of course, these are little boys who don't know what they're doing. Like, the harm comes later oftentimes. I don't have to explain to you guys, I'm sure, right? So I didn't even know what I was seeing. And then, you know, just this whole awakening when we had a pro athlete come and talk to us about his abuse. It was like, he talked about living this double life, and wow, that just broke me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are heroes for coming forward, honestly, because you are preventing suicides in other men that haven't yet come forward. You are making it safe for them to do the same. So you guys are the heroes in my book.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't really give them a choice, Kelly. No.
Oh, you didn't tell me that part. One of you mentioned the confusion and trying to figure out. Clearly, I'm not a male survivor myself, but I mean, and I don't know. I always say God used my misery to be my ministry, and the whole point of the book that I wrote was to try and the topic of my research and my doctoral studies was, why are boys and men not reporting this? So I interviewed 14 different men. I went to a conference just for male survivors, and I got like raw honesty. I interviewed these men for 4 hours each, and we talked about everything and anything. And I combined their struggles and my own struggles, and tried to make sense of the confusion that, abused children feel, and put it into a book so that I can help them understand what's already going on and validate their realities.
Yeah, that's nice. Awesome.
So I get, thanks, Kelly. That's really useful to know. And I think just coming back to, what's been raised already, we also have in our country a great attitude of sweeping things under the carpet, and the narrative in New Zealand is clean, green and beautiful and so safe. Would you agree, team? So safe.
Yeah.
But what people don't realise is that we lead the world in child sexual abuse statistics. Let me share. By the time a girl, by the age of 16, 1 in 3 girls will have been, not might be, but will have been sexually abused. For boys, it's I heard between 1 in 4 up to 1 in 6 by the age of 16. And also another statistic that isn't often talked about, guys, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that in the UK, they're saying 20%, and the US is saying 30% of perpetrators are women. And again, it's a topic that's never really discussed. And I guess I'm interested in your thinking about that. Well, any thoughts from the floor?
I don't know about the numbers, but I think it's pretty great, actually. I think it would be pretty huge. Just looking at myself and my abuse, it was horrific. Yeah, horrific. So that's what I've got to say about that.
I know a few male victims of female assaults, and it's just as bad as male on male to a certain extent. Like, they're pretty vicious from what I've heard with different clients I've worked with, and nasty pieces of work. Like they the thing is, with a lot of people, they plan things, like they orchestrate them into fruition, and it's quite ugly, some of the stories that we do here. And male can get raped by female, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I think because after you've been abused once and somebody touches you, I think you go into that freeze mode, and then they take over. Very much so for me.
And I think too, there's I suspect Canada's similar, Kelly, but we have this society where we have a patriarchal view that men are meant to protect, keep everybody safe, be the ones that can manage things so that everyone else feels supported and you know, looked after. So there's no room in that space for a male to then come forward and disclose sexual abuse, because there's no room. Sorry guys, they've managed to cut you out of that. Do you see that?
Yeah, very much, very much.
Yeah. So what are you meant to do as a small child if you can't disclose that? And then as an adult, realizing, well, there's no permission for you to still disclose that.
It's a tough one, but people are starting to come forward. So they must feel as though society has changed enough for them to feel they can turn up at a centre like ours and ask for help, because we do get probably your 1 in 10 might be a female, a victim of a female, you know. So it's slowly changing the times. And it's all through advocacy and getting the word out there that it's not all right to touch someone that doesn't want touched. As simple as that.
Gloria, if I may, I think part of the problem is that, for example, Hollywood has romanticized female sexual abuse on boys, right?
Yeah,
It's traditionally thought of as a coming of age experience and, you know, a rite of passage. That's the kind of attitude. But I personally believe that the statistics of male victims to female victims is probably pretty equal. It's just that boys aren't typically, they're not given permission to talk about it. And because of all these gender biases and romanticism by Hollywood, they're confused about whether or not they're victims, and they're confident that they're not going to be supported the way they deserve to be supported. So they just say nothing.
Yes, true.
Yeah. It's kind of almost oh, you lucky thing. I'm sorry guys, I feel sick even saying that.
It totally is.
We've heard it ourselves said, so like it's nothing that we haven't heard before, but it's not like that. If you're a spiritual person and you know only want to have 1 or 2 partners in your life or whatever, then you don't want people touching you at all, do you? You know, so
No.
You know.
So I guess, John, you're sitting there quietly hoping that I haven't noticed, but guess what? I have. What's top of mind for you as we're discussing all of this today? Is there anything that's been top of mind around any of this?
The first thing that really struck me is seeing Kelly's book in the background there before. It says men too.
Yeah.
It's so good to see. It's an acknowledgement, yeah. And like so, I've got a lot of female friends who have been so supportive and understanding to me. And look, we're just all human beings, whether we're male or female. It's such a shame there's been this sort of division. And for decades, I never even came near telling anybody what happened to me. And it's like it was yesterday. And it was only one night, but it's a night that changed my life. And so being able to sit here and talk to both of you ladies, it's so good. Yeah. Thank you.
Kia ora, John.
I said to that guy, actually, I wasn't going to be careful, but that's how I'm feeling now. Yeah.
That's that we stand beside you, you know. Stand beside.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I think I so agree with what you've said, John, and just keep breathing, buddy. You know, there's been, unfortunately, this ridiculous division. I tried for 6 months, guys, and Kelly, you'll appreciate this, to get male survivors to come on this show. I approached all the male survivor groups and no one wanted to know. And it's not me judging, I'm just being honest, but what I found was the male survivor team just wanted to protect their own. And of course, they didn't know me and they couldn't see my heart, which was let's stand beside, let's help each other on this journey. And so what we have in our country is we have the Help Foundation, but they're only for women and teenage girls, Kelly. And I struggle sometimes with this because what about our men? And so, you know, we could learn so much. I mean, you guys have so much to teach and so much to offer us.
To share, yeah, we love to share.
Yeah.
Deserve support. Holy cow. I mean, I think that was also a small part of why I got involved with this type of work too, is because I think I previously was like pretty hard on men, you know, and it, you know, ridiculous.
We have a great ex-policeman, Earl Burrell, who helped our guys through the Royal Commission here that's been going for the last couple of years. And he's a great man. And a lot of our guys have been arrested by him in the past. And he came to a meeting here and it was all mended, you know. The guys apologised for the way they acted. And
he told us who he was and what he did. You know, it's hard for us guys to trust anyone. But to have a man from there and yourself, thank you for telling us, you know.
And he ended up taking our guys' testimonies and that and documenting them properly and putting them into the Royal Commission because he's an ex-detective and that. And we all love him. Yeah.
Well, you just highlighted another reason I wanted to get involved in this work was to sort of change the narrative. Like, you know, maybe you're seeing criminal behavior manifest or something, but really it's a coping mechanism for the trauma they went through, right? Like, we got to go way back before we start putting labels on people, right?
That's how the addictions come about, but they only look at the addictions and how to stop them. They don't go to the root cause and that's the trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir.
Slowly, hopefully we're breaking those barriers down till they realise they've got to go all the way back. And it's not a short term, it's a lifelong thing, you know. To keep people well and to help them through it, because I tell you what, some of our guys can get triggered and just go straight back to like it's yesterday, you know, and it's sad. It's a sad thing because the abuse was so horrendous, the trauma of it all, and that, you know. But they're starting to stop their drinking or their drug habits and that, you know. It takes a long time, but it can break it down over time and loving on them, you know. That's the thing.
You have to, I always tell my clients, you have to treat the trauma. I'm not taking away your coping mechanism until I give you better ones.
That's right. That's awesome. You need the tools to help them move forward and have a positive life, you know. They've got to have a reason to get out of bed, and that's what a lot of our guys haven't got, you know, and it's a sad thing. They just think there's no hope. You know, and we're trying to give them help and encourage them on, and that they, you know, things can change. You know, they can
give them hope. Give them hope.
Yeah.
So much would be good for Kelly to understand in our audience who will be watching. Beautiful survivors out there, aren't we lucky? Look at this, eh? Nacho, are you able to please explain what it is you guys do? Because Kelly won't know, our fabulous doctor joining us, and our audience won't know. Are you able to talk us through what you do, please?
Yeah, I work with male survivors. Yeah, it's about walking side by side with these guys, knowing, because it's easy for me to understand them. Can they understand me? You know, build a trust, build a relationship. Yeah. You know, I know that feeling, I know that place where they've been. Yeah, and that's why I sit here today, because I know it's hard. Nobody trusts anyone in this game, you know. So we've got to build that trust. Eh? Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. Yeah, but it's something we all know about. So it makes our job a wee bit easier knowing that, but it's how to get it across to them. Yeah.
Look, we haven't shared the exact experience, but we've shared something similar.
We've got our own stories.
But the best way to break them down or get them to open up is we'll tell them our story first.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll go into it. And so they feel safe to share with us. That's the thing.
And I tell them it's not easy to do that. It wasn't easy for me to do that. You know, I had back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, thinking nobody else knows what I've been through. Yeah, so yeah, I'm grateful for all the men who stood up before me. Yeah.
Well, and I hope that every time you share your story, as you help heal them, it heals you.
Kia ora. Kia ora. Kia ora.
That's right.
And it's talking to women as well, and when they say that they're proud of us for standing up, you know, it turns my head and think, what did you just say? You know, did you just say something beautiful? You know, yeah, it's great. It's encouraging.
Can I say it's just wonderful having females supporting us.
Well,
I have a female counsellor, Kathy, and she is just fabulous. And wow, thank you. Yeah.
well, and one of you said, like, nobody, or Matt, I believe it was you, said nobody wants to hear. Well, I mean, they can't shut me up, right?
Yeah.
You know, as a
Well, they can't shut us up either.
one of the things I said, like, you can't ever accuse me of lying because I'm not even one of them, right? You know, so I mean, you're never going to minimize my story, and I just want to be the voice, right? Like, to say, hey, like, we need to pay attention. But I mean, you're right, though. It's still such a taboo topic still for so many people. But I mean, I truly believe that the way we break down these walls is by doing exactly what we're doing right now, is just talking about it and having those meetings. And for the record, if you guys ever have a conference in New Zealand and you want a guest speaker, I would love to come.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. But we've got the schools that we're thinking we can get into next year, because things have been happening there recently in Christchurch, and there's room for us to go in and to open it up to a younger age group that hopefully most haven't been affected yet, or if they have, they can speak up straight away. Because if we can get them 30 years earlier, it's got to help them have a better life. You know,
100%. At the moment, throughout New Zealand, you guys will have had the pleasure of meeting Sam Troth, and he's doing some amazing mahi throughout at Aotearoa. Keli, he's walking the length and breadth of New Zealand to raise awareness for male sexual abuse, and an amazing man. And you know, the thing is, by doing that, he again, you know, this is what I call, we're normalizing the conversation, because we need to. The more palatable we can make this conversation, the more we keep speaking about it, the more it gives permission for others to also feel less alone and more heard and supported. And you know, it could be, guys, that one thing someone says today helps someone. It could be, you know, and we just don't know where this goes. And Keli, we had Marchu and Matt on the show. I interviewed them separately recently, and you know, some really lovely comments came forward, and I shared them with you guys on that. But you see, the thing is, people are watching, and you know, you talk about the drugs before, Matt, and the thing is, we know that over 90% of addictions have at its base childhood trauma, specifically child sexual abuse. We know that in our prisons, in Australia, I don't know if you guys knew this, but 66% of prison inmates have been sexually abused. So I don't know, I'm taking a leap here, but I would think New Zealand's possibly not too different to that. So you can see the cost to us, to the world, in terms of that. We know that up to the age of 14, boys that commit suicide in our country, 90% have been sexually abused. So come on, New Zealand, wake up.
Come on, world, wake up.
Yeah.
No.
We need
It's
the people in the high places to listen to our words and to give us some tools to make a difference for this country, you know.
Well,
I'm sure. Sorry.
You're never going to stop speaking and helping, guys. I'm never going away.
But we'll get more powerful. We'll get more powerful. That's what will happen.
And I've already written a book meant to support male survivors and educate people. And myself and the head of a treatment facility here in Canada are in the process of making a workbook just for male survivors.
Awesome.
I'm looking so forward to reading the book, Kelly.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with the program over here, with the IPS program used to be pulled from different places, but they've made one solely for male survivors, or put one together, and it starts in the next 6 months or so. So that'll be interesting for us to see what the difference is when we do it.
Definitely. So what are you noticing out there, guys? Have you noticed, you know, I hear you, Matt, say you're seeing a shift. You're seeing things change a little.
I've seen that with the people coming in to get the help, but I haven't seen it from the administration and the hierarchy. That's the problem. That's where the problem lies. They don't see what we see. They're not on the same level as us, and it's a big problem. It's a big issue. Because we can't get any traction. They don't want us to seem to have to let us do the work we know we can do, you know?
Yeah.
If it's anything like Canada, they don't want to see the problem because they would have to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're not going away, so they're going to keep hearing it over here. We'll promote it too, Kelly. So you got a couple of fans here. You got 3 anyway.
And it's so wonderful, like it's the loneliness of all those years of keeping this horrible secret.
Silent. Yes, that's right. And we're always getting told, don't say this. And we'll effort. We're gonna say it. And tough.
We're gonna say it, and we're gonna do it.
Voice, yes, you have a voice.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, but they don't like it when we say it because it hurts some people. We don't care about that. But
we've been hurt for a long time.
Yeah, we've been hurt. They can't hurt us any more than we've already been hurt.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And I do know. I mean, I believe that at least here in Canada, people are getting more and more open to hearing it. Like, yeah.
Well, I go to different parties, and not very often I go to a party, but a particular party I went to, you know, it goes, what do you do? What do you do for a job? Like, wow, is this it? Is this it? So I'm going to let them have it, and we're going to see how you take this road, you know? And it ends up being a good conversation, actually. I couldn't believe it myself. So things are changing, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. If people ever ask me that question, I tell them I'm a psychologist and I specialize in adult male survivors of sexual abuse.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, awesome.
That's great for us.
And I tell them I walk side by side, and nobody's greater than or less than.
with me.
Good for you guys.
So do you want us to take you down off the pedestal then, Machu, eh?
No, I'm already down there, love. I'm already down there. We're all on the same level here.
Can you read that?
No, but you can read it to us.
Okay. Says, only the broken will offer a piece of their soul to you, for they know what it feels like being shattered into pieces. Yeah. So that guy there's got lots of pieces missing because he's just come in, he's damaged, and we've got 1 or 2 pieces missing because we will always be damaged, but we've learned how to handle it. You know, how to help them and how to get them to use the tools that we learned by and that, you know.
Yeah.
It's still learning tools. Still learning more tools.
Yeah, you never stop learning. Life is a big learning.
Well,
yeah.
my prayer for each one of you would be that as you help the other men put their pieces back together, that your pieces get put back together too, right? That you get healing.
Well, like you say, the more you talk about yourself or what happened to you, the more you become healed and more empowered to speak it. Because when I first started, I wasn't too sure what the game was or what it was supposed to be, sort of the goal was. But now I know what the goal is, and I'm not scared to take on anyone. I'll debate anyone about our cause, you know. I'm right there, and I'm confident I'll win.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, we're
I'll
not
bring them to see the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll come out of the darkness and all the veil will get lifted and they'll see the truth, you know.
Got to remember this has been going for years. Abuse has been going for years. We can't stop this today.
Good.
We can't stop it today.
You'll never completely stop it, but you can make the people come forward sooner, I reckon.
Yeah.
That do get, you know, use maybe.
I hope it's okay to say this, but I have to be honest, like before I became aware that boys and men are victims too, like I say, I was very hard on men. I had ridiculous expectations that anyways, I just want to say that doing this work, being a psychologist and specializing, like 80% of my clientele is men for sure, easily. It has totally redefined my definition of like courage. Honestly, it has redefined it completely because what you guys are doing takes a lot of courage. So again, yeah.
We need you to come over here and talk to the people in higher places and tell them that, because they won't listen to us.
No.
Because
No.
we don't our background isn't the best, you know, so that's the issue we've got with people. Because our schooling and stuff, because of the abuse that happened around that time or earlier, you know. And even though we've got the life skills and we lived it, we didn't commit suicide like we wanted to a few times, depending on who you are. They don't give you enough credit for, they're blind in a way, you know.
But what we know about that, Matt, apologies. I think what we know about that is it doesn't suit the narrative. The people who are the decision makers don't want to hear this because they don't necessarily either want it to stop or it means they have something, they'd have to do something. So they don't want either thing.
Absolutely.
We have to.
It's too big now. Look at what's happening at the high schools in Christchurch and that. It's out of control, and we've got to get in there. They won't, you know.
What's happening?
They won't let us at the moment. Next year, we're hoping to get in, but we've got so much stuff we could help those kids with. Because I remember what I looked like at adolescence or puberty, and you know, I'd been through my stuff by then, but I was a mess. And I never talked, I never said hardly anything. And my schooling was crap. I never got anywhere. I just bunked the last year of school. I think I never went to class, because I didn't want to be there. And I know I could help a lot of young high school kids, for sure. Yeah.
It's hard to pay attention when you think about it. Sorry, Gloria.
Part of the brain shuts down through this trauma. We know this. So it's hard for a child to learn. And my response always is, if a child can get up and go to school the next day, surely to God the adults can talk.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean, guys? Like, really. Children are having to just carry on their lives. And yet there's a deafening silence. If you figure out we've got up to 30% of our adult population who are survivors of this abuse, if you work that out, my question to you as a panel is, what percentage of people are the actual pedophiles? Because it can't be a tiny amount of people.
Oh, exactly.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
And the way they groom people, they're skilled at what they do. And they know what they're doing. So they're bad, evil people in our books, obviously.
Something else that's amazed me too is, since reaching the point where I just couldn't not speak up anymore, is the number of people that I've known, whether they be work colleagues or friends, some of them I've known for more than 40 years, who for the very first time, when I've said something and been on tears, said, well, this happened to me too, and I've never told anybody. I thought, wow.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that pro athlete shared with us, was that he felt other people knew and did nothing. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Bring them here. I will kill them all myself. I think the number of pedophiles out there is way more than we think. I used to believe that it was a small number of people doing a lot of perpetration, but now, with the Jeffrey Epstein case blowing forward and all the pedophile rings coming, like, I don't know about in New Zealand, but in the US, all these big pedophile rings, like in the Catholic Church and the Boy Scouts and the universities, are just getting blown up. And I can tell you the police do not have the resources to investigate them, so they are going untouched.
Yeah, well, we've just had some of our guys from the school called Marylands in Christchurch and Hallswell, and they've been through the Royal Commission. And we've got some of our clients are from there, and they were at the brothers, St John and God brothers, looked after them, and it was just horrific what happened to those children. Right?
Yeah.
Broken men.
I often wonder,
no direction. It's really hard.
I often wonder the statistics, like of car crashes that someone died in, it's just an accident. But I know 2 of them that tried to kill themselves through car accidents. It would have just been written off as the statistic as a crash and they died in it. But it was a suicide attempt.
Yeah.
Because they'd had enough.
Yeah. No, you're 100%, guys. And, I totally agree with you, Kelly. I think, the amount of pedophiles out there is being underreported. The amount of interest in this is zero to small. There is no appetite for this to be a discussion. I spoke to a journalist recently and asked her point blank, with our statistics, why are you not reporting this? Why is there not a big expose in New Zealand? I can't talk for Canada, but I imagine it's similar. Expose in New Zealand on this. And she said, do you want to hear the reasons? She said that because of COVID, people are, have had enough of kind of trauma, and
Really?
I've been told that too.
So we'll ignore it and sweep it under the carpet.
and it's bad news for people. Oh, and that media are not trauma informed. So my response was, and yet the children still have to get up and go to school the next day.
Or be trapped at home with their perpetrator.
Well, no.
Yeah. You guys were talking about female perpetrators. In my book, I think at least 3 of the men I interviewed were sexually assaulted most of their lives by their bio mothers. That blew my mind. I'm sorry, I'm not claiming to be the expert in that area. What I learned blew my mind.
No, I get used to hearing that more and more.
Yeah, I do now, but like this was 2014. I did my data collection, and I was just like, I had to go consult with some of the experts at the time. I was like, is this like normal? Is this what you see all the time? Oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, wow.
So until we get politicians or decision makers who are prepared to do something with this information, we are going to stay underground. And it's people like Sam Troth, who's Walking New Zealand, and the Riosa team, 2 sisters you guys may have heard of, who are also Walking New Zealand to raise awareness. And it's people like you guys, it's people like us that are out there advocating and will keep advocating, that slowly but surely more people will join, more people will come and stand beside. And I think that's all we want. We don't need, we cannot be quiet. We cannot be quiet.
That's why it's good to build a community, huh?
Yeah.
To build a community. People understand. Know how to have conversation, and then know how to talk to anyone in general.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me in, and Keli as well. I'll come back to you in a sec, Keli, because guys, as I say, I tried really hard to stand beside men, but there was such a block, and I couldn't understand it for a while, but then I worked out it was a little bit of fear, because there wasn't a lot of trust, you see.
Trust.
Yeah, it was a bit of trust, I think. But now you guys know me, you've seen me a few times, so you got to start pushing the barrow, because we're not going away. Together we're stronger, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
With a good team here, Matt was encouraging and encouraging and encouraging. So that's what we need here, you know? It's not just the family at home that need to deal with this, it's us as a team. We need to deal with this the best way we can to get through.
And that's other people like survivors listening to this podcast and getting the courage to walk into a place like ours, you know?
Yeah.
And get the help. And, you know, that's what we're here for, is to help them through their stuff, you know? Because it's heavy stuff. Goes right to the soul, you know, it's deep.
So 100%. And Keli, you know, when you think about your research and what you uncovered, what else can you share with this fabulous group today? What else did you discover or have you realized needs attention?
I would say that well, I'll tell you my 2 biggest shockers for myself. And I mean, I'm ashamed to say that we were the experts. I mean, I was, myself and a colleague, she was my supervisor, we started up the child sexual exploitation unit. So we were supposed to be the ones that were considered the experts. And neither one of us knew what we were doing in this regard, for sure. So that was a big part of why I chose to research this. Well, and the kind of repentance of having missed it, I guess you could say, when it was right in front of me, you know? So the 2 big shockers or the 2 biggest surprises for me were, that a lot of men do forget about it because it's such an extreme trauma response. And then say 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, the memories come back. And the other one that broke my heart was that a lot of boys and men don't talk about it because they're protecting their parents from information that would be too hard for their parents to handle. So that just... ooh, you know, boys doing what men are conditioned to do, which is be protectors, but they're doing it from such a young age, right?
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to hear. I understand. Some understanding.
A lot of them also had tested the waters, like tried to make small disclosures to people, and they were met with terrible results. Like, oh, lucky you, she's hot, or you know, just minimized their situations, minimized or blown over or whatever, right? So
that happens a lot, Kelly, over here too. Like people just, you know, we have someone in crisis and they just want to go into respite or some care for a few days, but they're not allowed in, and the crisis team will go, well, I say they're going to commit suicide if you don't like help them. You know, like what are we supposed to do with these people? And they just said, oh, it's just the way of the world. Like, who gets a job in the crisis team and can say that to you? Like, and we're going to drop that person and leave them at home on Friday night for the weekend, what thinking that they could be gone any time. You know, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
Horrible.
Do you know what we need to organise? And Kelly, you should fly over and join us. Win Lotto and then come and join us. You know what we should do, guys? We should organise a march.
woo, yeah, I love hiking.
A peaceful one, but you know what I mean? Because no one's, you know, we're not being heard, and we need these conversations to be stronger and more prolific. And
march around the Parliament buildings until they decide to give you guys some facilities, like, you know, provide resources that they have for women.
I did that 3 years ago with the NZ horses.
yeah, the horses, I remember that.
Yeah, we protested them.
My partner works for the women's, and she works for Battered Women's Trust, and it's amazing what they get for the woman to get by, clothing, stuff for their houses. And I just looked at what they get, and I'm struggling to understand that.
But
yeah, I agree.
the people don't want to, you know, we got to fight for how, you know, just to get anything for males. It's just terrible, and it's sad because we know what we could put in place if we had some funding, some decent funding, and they didn't listen to the clinical workers. They listened to the ex-survivors that have been through it, because they don't like listening to us either, into what we're saying, because they've got diplomas or degrees or whatever. They hate listening to us, but we know we're right. We know what we're saying is right, because we've got 50 clients each. It's a lot of freaking people, man, and they're all in heavy trauma. They've been through it, you know. And sometimes you have your good days and your bad days, but it's a heartfelt thing, I tell you. It hurts sometimes.
My thoughts would be, if my honestly, my personal, my thoughts would be, if these people aren't willing to listen to you, they either absolutely don't think it's possible, or they're pedophiles.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll remember that one. That's awesome. No. Yeah. Okay.
Sure. No, 100%. If you're a pedophile, you're not going to be trying to support victims because you're supporting your buddies, right? They're very connected. They are very connected. Pedophiles are just as organized, if more, way more organized than you are. You and I are, right? We're trying to find each other to support or give support. It's way easier for them to find each other and share files and trade victims and support each other and get in positions of power to shut down the victims. Like I am convinced that it's like, to me, it's like the world's largest hidden epidemic.
Yeah, yeah.
No. The silent epidemic, I call it. Yeah. But you know,
just look at the girls with FB that were at the Epstein thing. You know, there's a lot of powerful men going there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the like high level people going there.
Absolutely, that scared me actually. It scared me at that level.
Do you think it's really any different in this country, Marchie?
At that level?
Yeah. Do you really think it's
absolutely not? Absolutely not.
What do you think is the silence? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of research on narcissism lately. So my background is not that I was sexually abused, but I was raised by 2 narcissists, I believe. So that did its own share of damage. And one of the things that they do, if the victim tries to come forward and speak, is they instantly paint them as mentally ill or, you know.
Yeah.
We call it the Darvo technique, Kelly. So it's D for deny, A for, so first of all, the abuser or the gatekeeper, I call them, they deny that it happened. They then attack you as the victim by querying your credibility or your sanity or your behavior. And then they do what they call reverse, R for reverse, which is they reverse the order of the victim and offender. So suddenly, pedophile's off the hook, victim's on the hook. It's very clever. It was coined by Jeanette Freyd, F-R-E-Y-D, in 1992. But it worked well then. What do you think the false memory syndrome group was all about? Darvo. It's to shut us down before we can even get off the ground. And as survivors, guys, you're survivors like me, what do? We fight hard to find our courage to find our voice. We speak out, we get Darvoed. Do you really think we're likely to then try it again? No. So, no. So see what happened, Kelly? It's very powerful. So you Darvoed, just like that. It's incredibly powerful and it works and it keeps working. So, you know, we've got powerful people in our country. We've got, I was looking at going on we've got 2 key TV channels here, Kelly. But keep getting stopped, blocked, because my story's a bit unusual. You guys may know my story, but okay. I'll talk to you later about it, but
Yeah, you can talk later about it.
pretty horrendous.
Next month when we do the monthly podcast.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you'd like somebody to interview you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny, the States and the UK are very keen and think I'm amazing. And I don't say that with any ego, but I'm just saying it.
I know that.
True, eh? And then, but New Zealand, no, go away, shut up, Darvo, like don't, it's huge silence. Whereas all I want to do is bring attention to the cause, because we have so many survivors out there and there's just a wall. The silence is deafening.
Yeah. And, you know, people are always trying to shut us down as well.
Yeah, yes.
Doing the good work we do, because they can't see it, all the hate that we do make inroads into our guys, because all of our guys like the work. They love us. They look forward to us turning up there, and we love them too, you know.
Yeah, of course. Never give up, Matt. Never give up. You're on the right side of this. And you know what? It's almost worth saying when someone wants to shut you down or stop your work, I wonder why you said that.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Yeah.
You know?
Why would you? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Anyway, Kelly, last words from you as we come to close. Any last words of wisdom or?
Just I mean, to validate you guys' reality that yes, you're right, it is a tough subject that not many people want to talk about. I face that too. I mean, I had dreams that my book was going to take off and I'd have a treatment facility open by now, you know. But you guys, I mean, more and more of us are paying attention and keep talking. And if you forward Gloria your addresses, I would love to forward you some of my books. So, and if you like them, tell the other people about it, you know, like
we'll promote it for you, Kelly, once we all read, and I'm sure we'll agree with what you've got in there, and yeah, we'll do our best for you. Good on you.